Today, you're going to learn how to grow on Instagram in 2025 and why the advice of you are the niche is outdated and why niching down right now is the fastest and most efficient way for you to grow online and build a powerful personal brand. If you're new here, welcome to the channel. My name's Arv. I was a physiotherapist and clinic owner for 10 years until I decided to sell off my practice after growing a following of over 350,000 people online combined. Since then, I've helped over 300 health professionals and coaches build powerful personal brands online so they can become the leading authority in their industry. And if you want to learn how to do the same, feel free to give me a follow on Instagram below. Otherwise, if you're ready, I'm ready. Let's get into it. So in front of you right now is a diagram that I drew up and we'll dive into it together. So I want you to imagine that this is you down in the bottom left. You're a basketball player, maybe you're hooping in your backyard at high school or college. You're wearing these Converse Chuck Taylors, right? The OG basketball shoes. And your dream for yourself is to become the greatest NBA player in the world, right? This is where you want to be. You want to be like Mike. You want to be like Michael Jordan. You want to have a shoe brand, right? Where you have a shoe range and a Jordan brand or a brand for yourself that's worth billions of dollars, just like Michael Jordan has. And you also want a group of people who are super fans, a group of people who will buy anything that you sell, who will follow you in anything that you do, right? But right now, this is you down here and you have none of that right now. And let's say, for example, you yourself, you're someone who's also very multi-passionate, right? So what that means is that you're someone, although you like basketball, right? You also like soccer. And maybe you're also decent at these sports. Let's say you also like football. And let's say you also like tennis, right? Now, in regards to what the fastest path is to go from point A to point B, which is you being an NBA player, this probably might not be the fastest path, right? If you take on all these sports. But there are some people right now that you might know of, or maybe this was you back in the day, where you picked up a lot of sports. You're a basketball player, soccer player, football player, tennis player, you go into a lot of trainings. And what this did for you is that it actually gave you a big amount of people, or a large amount of people that you knew, right? We'll call this your audience. Because you were in so many, what I call, let's just imagine these are niches. Because you were in so many niches and you were just really multi-passionate about getting into a lot of things, there were a lot of people tied to basketball that you knew, right? So you had your basketball crowd, you had your, sorry, I'm trying to delete this one, that's fine. You had your basketball crowd, you had your soccer crowd, football crowd, tennis crowd, right? So you have this big pool of people that know and like you because you're just in a lot of circles. And what this probably means for you is that now you have a bit more, you have a lot of connections, or you're kind of, well known in that kind of like sporting area, in that general sporting area. You might now start to get brand deals, or you might just start getting sponsorships, right? For people who want to, tap into your network or your audience, because they want you to be able to push maybe their products or services towards the basketball community, soccer community, football community, and tennis community. Now, although you have a big number of audiences, and also you're doing what you love, which is multi-passionate with basketball, soccer, football, and tennis, I'd argue that this is the slowest path for you to get from point A to point B, which is being an NBA professional basketball player. Now let's take this road down here, for example, where instead of going into basketball, soccer, football, and tennis, because you're so multi-passionate, you just focus on one thing. And that one thing you focus on is basketball. But now let's say that road that you take, right, instead of you doing all these sports on the weekend and all these sports throughout the week, let's say now you just focus on basketball. And maybe what that means is that your audience isn't that big. Maybe you only know 2 people instead of this bunch of people, right? And the reason for that is because you're not in a lot of circles. You're just really focused on one aspect of what you enjoy doing. And with that is a smaller market that you tap into. And because it's a smaller market you tap into, the money probably isn't as great, right? You don't have as much leverage to get into paid monetization for brand deals and sponsorships. Where up here, when you're doing multi-passionate things, when you're in a lot of circles, a lot of crowds, you had more opportunity for money. But now let's take it and fast forward, maybe let's just go a year, 12 months, 2 years, 3 years, whatever you want to call it. Let's just fast forward down the track. Now let's say a couple of years go by and essentially the long-term play for us is still becoming an NBA player. Now the question I have for you is it the person, or is it you who is multi-passionate and put yourself in every single sport to try to achieve becoming an NBA player? Or was it the version of you who focused purely on basketball and was able now to then get into this NBA Michael Jordan status? Which path do you think got there faster, or got there at all? Right? And obviously, it's going to be this, where in the short term, you have maybe a smaller audience, maybe you have not as much money coming in, but the big term play and the big play for you with all of this is that you become super good, you become excellent, you become a master of what you're doing. And because you become a master of what you're doing, instead of you having to chase for opportunities, opportunities come to you. And instead of building an audience, you are now building super fans. So now if we scroll down here, and let's take this for the content space and this online space, this is you again. Now let's say you want to create your personal brand in 2025 on Instagram, you want to grow, and you're multi-passionate. You want to get into showing dancing content, singing content, training, boxing, self-development. You're huge in motivation and inspiration, right? And yes, you're attracting a large amount of people because now you're catering to a large amount of people, right? And because of that, you can have sponsorships and brand deals because now you have an audience to sell to, right? But again, the question is, what is your dream outcome? Like, what is the long-term play for you that you ultimately want to get to? Because this is good and all and nice to have. But the question is, where do you want to end up eventually? And if it's not this and it's something bigger, then you probably have to take a step back and really focus on what are the actual things that are going to move the needle for me to get towards where I actually want to go. Right? Because if you want to be influencer and just do brand sponsorship deals with which are not the most consistent way to monetize online or to monetize a personal brand, then I mean this is fine if you just enjoy working with brands. But if you want something sustainable long term, you want to be a leader in the industry, what does that look like for you? And for you, it probably isn't becoming an NBA basketball player. Maybe it is for some of you, but maybe for you it could be the leading expert in back pain, the leading expert in nutrition, the leading expert in finance, business, knitting, pottery, whatever that looks like. There is a dream outcome there, a bigger version, a higher version of yourself that exists. So now the question you have to ask yourself is that, okay, if I build an audience now, how can I leverage that audience or leverage my interests to really just focus on one thing that I'm super good at? And for most of you, there's gonna be one niche or one avatar that you speak to that you're 10 times better at than everything else, right? And while you might be good at dancing, singing, training, boxing, self-development, all these things, while you might be good at that, there is, trust me when I say this, there is one thing, and the one thing most of the time is the one thing that is the most exciting for you, the one that feels the most aligned, the one that feels even the most easiest for you, where you don't have to put in any effort and be able to perform almost as elite as people who are in the same sport or in the same industry. A really good example of this is LaMelo Ball in NBA, right? He's very nonchalant when he's on the court, but dude is killing it right now. So what is easy for you and what comes easy? And generally, that's the area where you want to kind of focus on, because there's a natural talent there, or there's a natural inclination that you were put on this earth for that specific niche, avatar, or talent. Now, if you say, for yourself that the end outcome for you is to become the leading expert in back pain or the leading go-to person in nutrition, then I would focus down into nutrition, right? Into that nutritional niche and understanding who is that one avatar that I'm trying to serve. Because eventually it's gonna be slow, it's gonna be small, maybe money opportunities aren't gonna be there. I want you to remember this. I want you to remember that the compounding effect is huge, right? And that compounding effect is demonstrated by the question of, would you take $1 million right now or a penny doubled every single day for 30 days? Most people would say, I want to take that $1 million now. And this is what this looks like right now for a lot of you who are multi-passionate and want to build this personal brand based on every single interest that you have, is that I want to take that $1 million now. But if you have a penny that you double every single day for 30 days, by day 30, you will have $5 million plus more, right? You will have $5 million by day 30 if you take a penny a day and you double it, in comparison to everyone who chooses the $1 million to grab at the very start. And this just shows you the effect and the powerful effect of compounding. Now, the question or the thing that I'm leading to with all of this is that your end goal is going to lead to this massive victory here where you ultimately want to be, but it has to start with this vision first. Now, some of you might be thinking right now that you might be boxing yourself in if you go into a niche. Some of you might be feeling that you can't lean into your full potential and serve as many people as possible because you're niching down to one person. What I want you to reframe your mindset with niching down is just choosing one avatar. And that one avatar is just the one person that you speak to. I want you to think of Nike, Adidas, Lululemon, all these big brands, Gymshark. They've all built their brand based off speaking of one type of person, right? And that messaging is repeated over and over again in their marketing on Instagram, billboards, TV, wherever you see them. It's always the same messaging. And it's that repetition that builds brand. And there's a saying that goes, if you tell a lie long enough, big enough and loud enough, people start to think it's the truth. And same thing with your brand and same thing with niching down to one avatar, is that the more and more you get loud and consistent with your message, the more that you start to build super fans, right? Sorry, I know this is super messy, right? You start to build super fans, not just an audience, because an audience is not what you want, because anyone can build an audience. Anyone can build a personal brand based on multi-passionate interests. What you want to build is a super fan base that allows you to then leverage that fan base later down the track, right? When you want to monetize and actually make something from your personal brand. So an example of a niche or one avatar could be Bob. If you're someone in the, over 50s, over 60s health and wellness space, you're helping Bob or people over 50 be able to walk further and faster. And that's your niche, that's your avatar. And you can probably see if you have Bob as a visual picture, if you see this every single time you create content, you write copy for your landing pages, you write copy for your sales pages, it's gonna be a lot easier to speak to Bob's pains, Bob's wants, his desires, his needs. And all marketing is selling one to many. So if you can sell to Bob on a one-to-one basis, right? If you know Bob inside out, it's gonna be easier for you to sell to 100, 1,000, 10,000 Bobs because you know their in and outs. Same thing with Jane, for example, right? If you're in the weight loss space and you want to target females in their mid-30s who want to lose weight, if you have Jane in your mind, every time you focus on building your landing pages, sales pages, content, it's going to be a lot easier to connect, right, to Jane than trying to talk to multiple avatars and niches that are, here, 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 here. It's just not deep enough, right? The connection is where everything starts to really shift for those of you who want to build a powerful personal brand and a following and a super fan following on Instagram, right? And what this does, picking one avatar, Bob or Jane, it leads to one message, like I said before. And that one message leads to connection. And why is connection important? Because content builds audiences, connection builds super fans. And like I said before, this is what most people are building just through a personal brand, and you are the niche. But this is what you build when you become the voice for those who don't have one. You become the leader in your industry because you speak to that one person over and over again and you know them inside out, right? And what happens is when you get super fans, your brand, your business, everything you touch spreads like wildfire. And this is why if you just want to grow a following and just grow an audience online, then you are the niche and become the niche is good advice. But if you're someone who actually wants to take that personal brand, monetize it, make something from it, leverage it so it can give you back time, location, financial freedom, whatever you want from that personal brand, it's about niching down and speaking to one avatar. If you have any questions about this video, feel free to give me a follow on Instagram. I'll leave my link below and other links below in the description if you want to check it out. But give me a follow there, best place to reach me. And if you haven't noticed already, we aren't at 1,000 subscribers yet. We're at 597. So if you please hit that like and subscribe button to help grow this channel, that's gonna be amazing. See if we can get this bad boy to 1,000 in the next couple of weeks. Otherwise, thank you for being here. I know you don't have to watch to the very end. Much love as always, and I will see you in the next video.